Hello and welcome to Kayo Sports NRL podcast. Week 2, we are back and we have the big guns on deck. Cooper Cronk and Steve Blockeroach.
We're the big guns, Block.
When are they coming in?
Don't undersell yourself. I've missed you guys. Only one weekend without rugby league and
Yes.
you guys look fresh.
What have you been up to, Blocky?
I've been doing some things with my beautiful wife, Catherine Bridget. You know, just some stuff.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. What's been happening?
Well, I was married for 40 years last week.
Oh, the wedding
Anniversary.
Yeah, 40 years.
What do you get? What's that? What's that anniversary? What's 40?
What?
Like in terms of, you know, there's
Well,
a gift, there's a special
don't-
gift given.
Well, a gift. I took her to Kim's Cabins. You ever been there? At Tawoon Bay.
Okay, so
It's a special
romance.
gift for myself too.
Okay, beautiful.
Catherine is a
Congratulations.
saint for 40 years. Catherine is a saint.
We love Kathy.
She's a lovely
Well,
young
you look
lady.
well rested,
I
and
am.
you look slim. You're on the
No,
off-season
no
diet.
stress of rugby league, actually, Lars. But rugby league in November, we're still doing it.
What, 3-day fast or something? What are you doing?
No, just no stress
You know
of
what
rugby
it is?
league.
The haircut.
Blocky.
Look at it. I'm going to get a
Fresh
fade
haircut.
like that. It looks cool.
Makes you run faster, Block.
Yeah, I'll have a run for 30.
Well, I think you've probably also not been eating takeaway and chicken here all weekend.
love the
we
chicken
do
in here,
all
Lars.
through the rounds of the season. But we're here to talk about what's been going on because it never sleeps, this rugby league news cycle, and it continues to be dominated by what we know as the rebel R360 and whether we're going to lose any of our biggest names in the game to rugby union and overseas.
So my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a game that's an idea that is starting to sign players, but World Rugby hasn't sanctioned it. It might start in October, and there's a lot of players willing to go for a lot of money, right? So, look, I think our game is going to be strong no matter what competitions come on the agenda. But V'landys has spoken strong, bit heavy-handed for my liking. Players can come and go as they wish. But at the end of the day, if I'm a player that's either Papenhuyzen, Lomax or Payne Haas that may be leaving, geez, I want that money up front because they're just leaving rugby league with his guaranteed income to something that may or may not happen. So I think it's a bit headlines at the moment, but I'd be very interested to see if it comes to fruition and if Peter V'landys still hands down that 10-year ban, because if I'm a player, there's obviously ways around it.
I've got a little bit of a different take. I'll talk about Payne Haas firstly. The game's given him everything. You know, he can be a legend in this game for the next 30 years. Mate, you think about it. If he stays a one-club player and he stays at the Broncos, he'll earn that money anyway. I mean, it's what you get like when you finish playing and all that sort of stuff that should come into your mind. If he stays at the Broncos, which I think he will, I think he'll stay. He could be a legend at that one club, be a one-club player, and get the benefits of that for the next 20, 30 years.
Block, if you're in your prime back in the 80s and 90s and this money gets thrown around at you, you would consider it.
I would consider it, but I'd want to see it a lot more formal or a lot more organised than what it is. It's for me, at the moment, it's a little bit pie in the sky. They haven't even named who they've got. The other thing is too, why aren't they chasing the Australian rugby union players? If it's going to be a rugby union-based game, why are they chasing all the leagueies?
Well, I think international rugby union have said you need to qualify and play for your nation as opposed to another rebel competition. And I think V'landys is going down the same path. So it's going to take individuals to break contracts, step aside and risk the things not coming to fruition. But if I'm a player today, I would consider all options. And to Blocky's point, everyone's situation is completely different. You know, Payne Haas is a very good person for his family.
Yeah.
Right? He looks after his entire family. I don't know the intricacies and I'm not really fussed about that. But I imagine his circumstances are completely different to Papenhuyzen and Lomax, right? So if I'm a current day player and I have these monies being thrown at me at different stages, I think it's a bit of both our situations. I will consider my individual circumstances. I will consider the sum of money, but ultimately it comes down to your heart. Where does your heart lie and what do you want to do? Now, there's been some players that have left our game and done great things. Sonny Bill Williams, Joseph Swaliti.
A lot of them will come back too.
They have every right to do that and they will come back, most likely. But at this stage, I think it's you know, Peter V'landys is ruling with an iron fist. And look, if I'm Payne Haas, for example, and that competition doesn't pay me till July, what's stopping him, you know, shaking hands with Peter V'landys and say, I'll play at the Broncos until this, I'll sign a 2-year deal and then I'll come back to the Broncos on that. Like there's there's ways to manoeuvre around as opposed to just saying 10 years.
But it has to be real, because when you've got this has to be real. We don't know what the conversations are that are being had. And at the moment, agents are not allowed to be speaking to, but they're finding other people to speak to R360. You've got players breaking contracts like Zach Lomax.
Had he not won the comp this year, do you reckon he would have stayed? He would have more than likely stayed to try and win a competition.
That's a huge question to ask.
Question from him. Or for him.
But I think what Peter's doing is he's protecting his patch. He's protecting our game.
But he must know, he must be hearing that it is a real threat of happening, because you don't come out as heavy-handed as a 10-year ban if you're not worried that you could lose big-name players. And if you don't make that stance, and Payne is the first of many to go, then
if that's
you
the
have
case,
to put a deterrent in there somewhere.
then it's the game's obligation to make sure if someone like Payne Haas, Zach Lomax, Ryan Papenhuyzen leave, that we have another sort of front rower coming through like Lindsay Smith. We have another half like Tom Dearden on Ethan.
They'll keep going.
They'll just keep coming along.
Production lines.
The game needs to invest in the production line.
So then it forces the game to be better.
Yep.
A competition like this may only be, if it does get off the ground, a better thing, because it forces the NRL to make sure their house is in order, that players won't go.
But the game has looked after the players better than it ever has now. I mean, we're talking
But you can't
about,
compete with $3 million that
No, you can't compete
get.
with that, but it has to be a lot more stable than what it is, I would think. Before, I'd consider it, of course, if I was at the back end of my career and looking at that money, but how's it guaranteed?
Well, I think one of the areas for our game to improve, and we've seen what the Pacific Championship had done at the back end of this year recently, is the international game. We're only touching the surface of what that could possibly be, right? So I think the International Rugby League, the National Rugby League need to get together and work out a better format for the international game, because we saw how powerful Samoa, Tonga and New Zealand were. We saw the Cook Islands, Fiji and PNG play the Ashes over there in the UK. So there is something there that says that the international game can match what rugby union has at the international level down the track. And I think that's an area our game needs to focus on.
So back to Payne Haas though, if he is seriously weighing this up and does look to leave, is there something more the game needs to do to try and keep him? Is there anything they can do to try and keep him?
Not within the rules that are actually designed at the moment, but then it's very grey once you start opening up for someone, say Payne Haas. What's the difference between making salary cap exemption for Payne Haas
You'd have to do it for everyone,
another player, right? That will come down to very grey areas for the game to navigate through. I think the protection of a Payne Haas, Zach Lomax and Papenhuyzen all comes through investing in grassroots and making sure that production line of player comes through, because for every player we leave, we'll pick up another superstar coming through.
I didn't think talking about Payne Haas, I never thought I'd see a bloke better than Glenn Lazarus. Mate, this guy, the longer his career goes on, if he stays in rugby league, he could surpass him. And I didn't think I'd ever see a better one than him. So, you talk about production line, who's to know there's not another few coming through, you know?
How much would you have loved to have played with someone like Payne?
Mate, unbelievable. Well, I would have been a pirate. You know what a pirate is?
No.
Well, you let them do all the damage first, and then you get on the back of it. So I pirate, run after him. I did the same with Glenn Lazarus when he was playing. As soon as he made the test team, I said, mate, young fella, I'm on the side of where the ball comes in because I'm most experienced, and you take the first or second. He skittles them, and then I come on the back of him.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing for the Broncos. Let's just hypothetically say Payne Haas leaves. I think that brings them back a notch from winning the grand final again.
Okay.
That list that they've got is exciting from 1 to 13, and he is a big part of it. There's some guys like Reece Walsh that get a few more headlines than Payne, but he is almost the foundation
on the back
of everything else that Adam Reynolds, Ben Hunt, Reece Walsh can do off the back of it. He is in conversations for the Golden Boot and will, I think, might win it. He's that good.
Are you saying that middlemen are so important now? What about all these dribblers out there?
The way he does it though, right? Not many can play 80 minutes in a prelim final.
But what about all the dribblers out there that say that the front row, they shouldn't be getting paid? They should be paid the most. Ask Cooper. If he sees on the back of making yardage and quick play the balls, if they're getting put backwards, that hampers him. That's why all these guys are so good. The middlemen.
Just paid $1 less than the halfbacks in the competition blocky, that's all.
But it puts the Broncos under all sorts of pressure, though, financially. They've got so many of their big stars stitched up. And when, they can't offer Payne the top dollar that he could get at 360 or that other clubs could offer him.
Let's be honest, if $3 million is floating around for a lot of players, there's not too many other games or competitions that can protect against players leaving, right? Like I imagine $3 million in rugby union is a big number for one of the best players to leave one of their franchises. So there's not a lot you can do at our level to say stop Payne Haas from doing it. I think all it is making sure that Payne Haas feels loved by the Broncos, adored, opportunities to see life after football, whatever those things are, because it is the total package. It's just not the salary that comes through. Because without knowing what R360 is offering, I dare say after $3 million in 3 years, there's not much else for Payne Haas to do in that competition, unless he wants to sign an extension.
Is the talk of it too tax-free? So if it's $3 million, it's $6 million, really, isn't it? If you think about it, there was talk that it was tax-free money.
Yeah.
It depends where you camp it. Or
A bit like your salary here at Fox League, mate. $3 million is tax-free.
Mate, I'm licking the dates off the calendar. There you go.
But, okay, so if the Broncos lose him, are they... I mean, you'd have to be thinking there, you've already said it, they can't win the Premiership. They can't go back-to-back. You've decided that.
I didn't say they can't.
Well, else can
I put that in your mouth.
Brings back to the pack.
Okay.
They're still a top 4 team, but you think about the moments that Payne Haas does, not only in a grand final, but in rounds 1 through to 27, what he did for Samoa at different stages in the Pacific Championships. There's not too many other players like him. You can...
Not in any position, but...
You can fill that void with a player, but there's nowhere near the calibre of player. So it brings them back to the competition.
Yeah. And then the Broncos would have to be, at the moment, throwing everything at him, but then planning for plan A, B and C after that. There is no plan B that is like for like. There's no plan B for Payne Haas.
I don't think so.
But that is a big chunk of it.
But really, the Broncos should win the comp every year. I mean, they've got the whole state to pick from. Right?
So if you were to compare in block to some of the best, you've said Lazo up there with Lazo. If you look at all the props you've seen and played with in your time and then that have come through, where does he rate amongst them all?
It's only my opinion. Now, I don't want to go against anyone that's played in that position because I know how hard it is. But the top 5 that I've ever, I got the chance to, be asked about the top 5 props of all time. In my opinion, there's no one greater than Arthur Beetson. Arthur Beetson's number 1. There's no doubt about that, and I'll put him in order. Number 2 is Glenn Lazarus. I was lucky enough to play with Lazo. Mate, superstar. Quick play the ball. Arthur was a little bit different to all the others. He could offload the ball, get 2 or 3 blokes tackle him. He could somehow find the pass. But his speed over 10 and 15 metres was exceptional. A lot of people probably won't remember that, but for such a big man, he could move. Then I'd have Lazo, just his ability his motor, just to go for 80 minutes. As I said, I don't think I'd ever see another player after Lazarus. And then number 3 of all time, in my opinion, is Payne Haas. From what I've seen, he's still got a long way to go in his career, I hope, in the NRL, but he's number 3. Petro Civoniceva from the Brisbane Broncos is number 4. Talking to everyone that played against him, I never got the pleasure to play against him or the displeasure to play against him, but they're just hard as a rock and just the ability to go for a long period of time and cop a lot of punishment. And then number 5 for mine would be Shane Webke. I love the way Shane Webke wound up and the way that he played the game. So
that's a huge rap. Yeah. What's Payne Haas, 23, 24?
25.
25.
You know, Coops, I say
Blocker Roach, who's watched more front rowers play our game from Arthur all the way through to the current crop, and he's just put Payne Haas as the 3rd best prop in the history of our game.
Yeah.
And he could play for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. If he continues on that trajectory, you've got conversations that you might have one of the best players.
You remember, you and I were doing this game when they played, I think it was New Zealand, and he was marking over on a sideline, and he was second marker, and they shifted the ball. They shift the ball to the right-hand side, right? Now, it's easy in that position and when you've been going for a long, long time just to clock off.
Yeah.
Mate, he chased and did a try saver on the other side of the field, and I'm going, I've never seen that before. Yeah. And that to me, those sort of things that he does is something that, you don't see other blokes do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of blokes, you clock off after you've, look at yourself at the big screen and you've done a good thing or whatever, but, you clock off and away you go.
He's a gun player. He's in the top 3 players of our competition, probably will be for a period of time, the way that he's going about it. I find that astonishing and a huge rap for Payne Haas, because I would probably say, listen, he probably needs to do what he's done the last 2 or 3 years for another 3 or 4, and then I've got him in the top 3 front rowers of all time.
It's just the fact that I've seen him do things that I've never seen anyone else do.
Puts him up there.
Do you know what I mean? That puts him right up there for me. Anyway.
I heard a lot of Queenslanders in that top 5.
Yeah, I know, it hurts. It hurts, but mate, they're good. Of
course they are. You can't
go against it. Yeah. Were you lucky enough to see Arthur play, or you seen footage of Arthur?
No, I've seen footage of Arthur.
Mate, unbelievable.
One of the other things about Arthur, and I'm not going to get into tackling and taking hit-ups as a front row, but just the presence.
Yeah.
Right. The guy arrived in the room before he actually did, and the fact that what he did for our game in 1980 in Origin is arguably Australia's biggest sporting event today, as because of what Arthur did in that first scrum in 1980. Mate versus mate, state versus state rivalry was off the back of Arthur.
And you knew what a type of bloke he was. The first time I ever get picked for New South Wales, Arthur Beecham was the coach of Cronulla, right? Coaching their first grade. When I first got picked, he come over to Bellamy Leagues Club to congratulate me. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the sort of bloke. That's the sort of bloke he is, That touched me, Yeah. I thought that was, coming from a bloke like that, that was a big thing, because he was a Tiger.
What was your reaction to that?
Oh, mate, I couldn't believe it. But he loved the Tigers. There was a story about him when they called him half a game Artie. He was playing at the cricket ground against the Poms, and he set up 2 tries, one for Ken Irvine and another try before half time. And this is the type of bloke he was. They took him off and they was calling him half a game Artie. He was showered back at the Balmain Leagues Club drinking schooners with his mates while the test match was still going. So that's the sort of bloke he was. Champion. I loved him.
Right up your alley. You would have loved to have a beer halfway through a game.
Oh, mate. You're right.
All right, well, there's been, of course, other players that are being linked to this big R360 move, and the latest is that Zach Lomax is released early from his deal at Parramatta by Jason Riles, and the noise is getting louder that you don't do that unless you have a firm offer or something secure in your future. So what was your reaction to this, that after one season wearing blue and gold, Zach Lomax is on the market?
I would like to think that Papenhuyzen and Lomax, who have gone, or at least left their club, have some form of concrete evidence that they are to receive X amount of dollars, right? Because both of them on a pretty good thing where they were. Zach, starting to find his feet, particularly in the Origin arena, and the potential to earn some money over the next period of time. There's just something that says that these guys have something at least locked away that says they'll get X over a period of time. For me, the fact that clubs are letting these players go seems to me that they are sort of not required beyond what they're doing at the moment. So, because if I was a coach and I had Papenhuyzen or Lomax and I wanted to win a comp the next year, these two are elite players in our competition. But the fact that they've let them go means that they might be surplus to needs and they have to chase an opportunity to go, because you imagine that those 2 players would be wanted by their clubs, but the fact they've let them go at the early stages of a contract extension with Zach, it says that, geez, I hope for his sake he's got that money at R360 in the bag.
Yeah, I reckon Jason Riles showed a lot of maturity here. Well, you would still say that he's a rookie coach. To buy a player there from Saints and come to Parramatta and all of a sudden, he's one of your best players, and then to have the maturity to say, let's go, we're going to let you go. I don't think that Parramatta will get another winger. I reckon it opens the door for Bigger Sofa. I think it opens the door for him. The Melbourne Storm have let him go. I think that he's a type of player that can, play 50 minutes for you every week, get a little bit of, play the first 20 or 30 or whatever, have a little bit of a rest, come on and finish games. And I think he's a presence. I think sometimes he's a little bit erratic and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think that Parramatta will try and replace Lomax with an outside back. I think they'll go for someone like Bigger Sofa.
You got to tip your cap to Jason Riles, first year coach last year, arrived at Parramatta Eels. And when you're sort of making decisions based on your own career, you're probably going to keep some players and say, I need to win some games. He got rid of what? Clint Gutherson, RCG.
He did.
Got smashed by Melbourne in the first round. Didn't win a couple for a while. Brought in some other players that it was his choosing. started getting some consistency. Mitch Moses came back in the side. And I feel like this is another call from Jason Rolls. He's like, well, Zach, if you want to leave, if you're not buying into what we're doing, see you later. Because Jason Rolls has made some really strong decisions that you could argue have put Parramatta a couple of steps backwards, but are definitely going in the right direction, particularly the way they played at the back end of last year.
Yeah.
If anyone had have thought their start of the year would have been completely different at the back end of the year, it would have been hard to say that they would have improved after what they did at the start of the year. But he chose to set a culture with good characters, good leaders, and I think this is a decision around Zach as well, because he's happy to let Zach move on and reshape their roster a little bit.
Yeah, well, Zach was a Brad Arthur signing, and it sounds like from what we know of Zach Lomax, he's beats to the sound of his own drum, and he would probably back himself to play in live golf just as he would back himself to play in R360.
So you know when you love playing, part of it is I can't speak for everyone, but part of the thing was the enjoyment of actually playing the game, right? And all the money comes and all that sort of stuff. That's fine. I just wonder sometimes how much these guys actually love the game to actually play. So say Zach Lomax goes now, the competition doesn't start till the end of next year or whatever their competition's going to get up and running. What does he do in the meantime? If you're a footy player, you want to play.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think Zach Lomax will do whatever he chooses. He could.
Well, he could go to French rugby.
He could start boxing. He could do. That's the kind of guy Zach is.
And maybe that's the type of guy that Jason Rolls doesn't want in his team, because every team rocks up in the first week of November preparing for next year.
Clean slate.
There is a trophy up for grabs, and 17 teams want it. The difference between the Broncos and the team that finishes last is how much you want it, how much performance you can give, and what the culture is. Like they're three key parts to a premiership winning team.
So
you should be a coach.
No chance.
He knows what success looks like. So you've said it, Jason Rolls. It looks like he knows very much the kind of player he wants. Who do you think he should? If you look at the team they've got, Mitch Moses, very established halfback. They've got some young guys in their spine. What position do you think he could strengthen up in that team?
Well, I think, obviously Nelson's one of the names he's going after.
Kolomatangi, they're talking about.
I think one thing that Parramatta needed to fix, particularly off the back of Arthur in the early stages, they needed some mobile leg speed middle forwards, in my opinion. Junior Barlow did a really good year to drop some weight, get fit, and played really well for Samoa. Dylan Walker was a point of difference for their middle forward when he came across from the Warriors. Yeah. Look, Nelson's a big body. He's an intimidating person in our game. But I feel like there just needs to be a good balance in their forward pack. I like Mitchell Moses. You build a team around him. You're probably going to find some athletic outside backs that can fill Zach's spot. But I think they just need some physicality, leg speed, just to complement what they've already got there through the middle of the field.
They probably lacked a bit of size. When you think about it, like, if you're going through in the semi-finals and you're playing 27, 28 games, whatever it is, 30 games, you get worn out if you haven't got size.
Yeah.
So I think a big sofa would be perfect for them. Great. I think he's the type of bloke that people will follow. I think he's aggressive. I think they probably have to curb a little bit the way he plays, but I think he's the type of bloke that would really be a good fit for Parramatta.
Well, they did pick up one Melbourneite, Jonah Pezet. He's heading to Parramatta for an interesting deal. It's just the one year.
What do you think, Block?
Yeah, what do you think of that?
It depends on what you were talking about then. Trying to build a team. I don't really see it's a bit of a quick fix for them for a year. Obviously just coming in there and fitting in and then going to the Broncos. What happens if he comes out and he has a monster season and he loves playing with Mitch Moses and all that sort of stuff, but then he goes to the Broncos. I think it's a bit of just a fit for just 1 year. I don't really get it if you have a look.
It's to ensure that he gets first grade time, right?
The other thing too is the other thing you're looking at too, depending on what Jason Rolls' vision is to see down the track of what his team's going to look like. I think the most important thing for a footy side is to look what your team's going to look like in 3 years' time. And fill the spaces, you know what I mean? So,
you can get it from Jonah Pezet's point of view because he needed it.
1 year.
Did you like the Harry Grant move from Storm to the Tigers?
I loved it. He was our best player. Yeah. But we were on the bottom of the rung. We needed someone like that. Harry Grant was unbelievable. Mate, he was our best player. He won the Player of the Year for the Tigers. So that was a great move for us. But Yeah, then he went back.
I like it. I like it from...
Do you like it for Para, though? If you're a Para fan, are you happy with just getting someone there for 1 year?
I do. I like it through, the Broncos lens. I like it through Jonah's lens. I like it through Parramatta's lens because he was only available for the 12-month period. Maybe Rolls has got a trick up his sleeve after Jonah Pezet, but there's one thing that I think that combination can bring is I think Mitch Moses and Jonah Pezet work well.
Who did you play at 6?
Oh, Jonah Pezet. Mitch Moses is your halfback, 100%. Jonah Pezet is your 5'8". And I think through his development, we'll learn a lot through Mitch. I think Mitch needs a point of reference because at the moment, wherever Mitch goes, the ball goes and Parramatta can be shut down. Jonah's got that swagger that in that final match for the Melbourne Storm, he came on and started halfback.
40-20 and
played really well. So he'll call the ball on the other side of the ruck. The thing that is the missing piece in all of this is... the production line at Brisbane Broncos, that they've lost a couple of young halves now because Jonah's been plugged in there over the top of them. So I like it. I like this deal. I think it works out as long as, he stays fit and healthy.
What happens if Parramatta win the comp?
Yeah, a Para top 8 team then. Well, let's just look at that. Are they going to be a top 8 team based on what we saw improvement-wise and some of the key recruits for next year?
I think they're on the edge.
Okay.
I think they may sit around that, 8 to 10 mark, 7 to 10 mark. The biggest key for them, whether they finish in the top 8 or not, is Mitch Moses' health.
They lost a bit of strike with the big fella going now. The cross-field kicks and the tries that he scores and the ability to get over that stripe. Maybe they won't score as many tries.
Yeah. Well, on the lines of a couple of the players we've just spoken about, it kind of brings us back to what the season's going to look like for the Melbourne Storm. Now, it's been probably one of the most unsettling of seasons in terms of their roster. And, we've just mentioned the likes of Nelson Asafa-Solomona leaving, Jonah Pezet and Ryan Papenhuyzen. But the big story is now that their Dalian backer of the Katoa. I mean, it's an incredibly sad story that his season is over for next year and potentially his career is under threat.
How old is he, 25? Is that all he is?
I believe so. After suffering the 3 head knocks in the Tonga and the Pacific Champs. So, first and foremost, the players' welfare is what everyone is concerned about, and that the NRL is obviously doing an investigation and some heavy sanctions are going to be coming out, you'd imagine, after what's unfolded.
It's pretty easy after the event now too. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I would imagine before a big game like that, had you got knocked out in the warm-up, I just wonder how much Ellie wanted to play. I know that they go through the protocol and all that sort of stuff, but you get knocked out in the warm-up. It's sort of a little bit different to a game, isn't it?
But that's the thing that we've got to see
obviously understand
change.
that, but everyone's jumping on board now that a little bit of hindsight that we've seen that in the warm-up. I don't really know. He should have been pulled out of the game watching what happened and watching the vision, mate. He was knocked out, but I just don't know how deeply they dwelled into it, considering how much he wanted to play in a big game.
Yeah,
that's
entirely what's got to change, right? Is that you've played.
It takes it out of your hands. Yeah.
I think this whole story is very upsetting from a lot of angles. This simply cannot happen. It should never have happened. The fact that a player plays a game with all the video evidence, with all the care factor that's been drilled into our game the last couple of years with HIA and concerns for concussion, that this is one that slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
So you can't change history. I hope Ellie and his family are okay and a speedy recovery. But Peter V'landys and Andrew Abdo need to make sure this never happens again. If it is sanctions, if it is a thorough investigation, I would like to see something come out publicly and explain this situation because we have mums and dads and family members that love our game, but they go off and play junior rugby league every weekend. I don't think we can just let this one slip through and just not get noticed. It needs to be researched, investigated, and there needs to be something delivered publicly around why this will never happen again.
And someone's head's going to roll.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And whether it's monitoring warm-ups, it's having, those doctors that we have, the independent doctor that has to be monitoring this, but also
watching warm-ups.
That you cannot have things. I mean, you when you played and trained, we hear players get head knocks during training. Those things happen, but now clubs are, very vigilant about how they manage that.
It's hard for Blocker and I to relay our
experience
sort of
different
setup when we were playing, because there just weren't the protective systems in place or the protocols in place. The way the game is protected today, that incident should never have happened. It's as simple as that. And someone should be responsible. Something should come of it. And I would encourage Peter and Andrew to find out exactly what happens and make sure it never happens again.
It's a good point you bring up with, players. Some of the training sessions are just as hard as games now. Like you play full on. Yeah. Like it's, and young blokes trying to prove themselves in scrimmage and all that sort of stuff when you play opposed, all that sort of stuff. It's 100 miles an hour.
That's changed a little bit. How many times do we see a player have concussion and an opposition player goes to stop play, picks them up, makes sure they're okay? Yeah. So that culture has changed significantly in a much better way. This just cannot, from a procedure point of view, it just can't happen.
I'm glad it's changed, but because it used to be if you got a bad head cut or you got a bad knock, it was a badge of honour to stay out there. I'm glad that's changed.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of blokes struggling at the moment.
Yeah. So the Storm of obviously doing everything they can to support Eli Katoa and his family, and we're all just sending our well wishes to him. And right now the club is then going to be looking to see how to fill that role, but also salary cap dispensation for his loss for the year next year. It sort of puts them in a position now where yes they released Nelson, they released Ryan Papenhuyzen, but now Eli Katoa is not there as well. You've seen the Storm system in full swing. What would be going on behind the scenes there, Cooper?
Well, if Melbourne Storm had won that game, argument to say that Eli Katoa was probably the Clive Churchill medalist. He was that good on grand final night for a big chunk of that game. The thing about Melbourne Storm is it's not necessarily how do they fill that gap of Katoa, Nelson and Papenhuyzen. Like, I think they've got guys that we don't know in their list from player 25 to 35.
Scout, aren't
they would have someone that will fill to a level. I think the challenge for the Melbourne Storm is I don't think there's been too many question marks around Melbourne's ability to finish in the top four for the last 20-odd years while under Craig Bellamy. This is a team that you can make a case that probably should have won the last two grand finals if a couple of moments went their way. The Dragons lost back-to-back grand finals in 92. The Roosters lost back-to-back grand finals in 03-04. It's hard enough to get back after losing one. When you lose two in a row, I think the pressure on the Melbourne Storm is not necessarily filling the gaps of Katoa, Nelson and Paps. It's Harry Grant, it's Munster, it's Hughes. How do those three guys bounce back from losing two grand finals in a row? I've lost a couple of grand finals.
I lost two too.
So you lost two, right?
We're never the same, mate. The lemon had been squeezed.
That is a very good question to ask, right? So Blocky lost two. Yeah. And what was the key to get back and try and win that other one? Because these guys are going to have the biggest challenge that they've seen.
Well, you think about it, if you're lucky enough to have a 10-year career, playing in a couple is probably a good ratio, really, when you think about it. But to lose two, mate, it starts to get in your head for sure. You start to think, mate, am I ever going to win one? And the answer is, nah.
Yeah, I feel like after losing a couple of grand finals, the one thing you cannot do is start pointing the finger at someone else to blame. Because you naturally think, why didn't I win? You think, Blocker missed that tackle. And then you start getting into pre-season, you start little jibes here and there.
But how do you stop that? And Craig Bellamy
That's the culture piece. That's Craig Bellamy's job.
That's his thing, right?
Because I think if you want to get back and win the grand final, it's not necessarily performance, tackle, kick in, running. It's probably your culture and your selflessness that lifts that trophy.
But you can't put a question mark over that at Melbourne.
No, you can't. But there would be question marks around why didn't we win? Why haven't we done this? We've lost two in a row.
The other thing, it gets in your head too. Yeah. All of a sudden you're in a situation in a game, 78th minute, 2 minutes to go, right? And you start questioning yourself, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we look at they've got these, we were calling them the big four. It's now going to be back to the big three now that Ryan Papenhuyzen
might be the big two.
What do you mean? Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, they're all.
Young Perth?
Is that no? Well, Mal's actually said he's given up hope.
Has he?
I think he said Munster's
Should he give him a
committing.
bit
He
more
might be
fat?
going R360, mate. We'll
Yeah.
see.
But they do have three of the best key playmakers in our game. And that's firmly where any other team would be just falling over themselves to have Jerome Hughes, Cameron Munster and Harry Grant is their 6, 7 and 9.
Yeah, 100%.
Those are the guys who out of those three, like if you don't pinpoint on one player, but you've got guys there that as a collective, that spine was very disrupted last year with injuries, Jerome, all of that.
I have been in their shoes. Like, they are elite players of our game. But when you lose a grand final, self-doubt creeps in. And that's after losing one. Losing two, it compounds and gets worse, right? So I feel like they need to have that confidence and swagger still to go. If you were to talk about the grand final and where was it one loss, 100% Reece Walsh and the Brisbane Broncos were sensational, right? But if you're going to start putting X's and O's as to why the Broncos won, for example, a Jerome Hughes kick or a Munster kick, if they kick it 25 metres off the Broncos try line, Reece Walsh catches it. All of a sudden, their attacking play is 5 metres off the try line and Shibasaki scores over the top of Nick Meaney, right? If that kick was 20 metres further, Reece Walsh catches on his try line. The last play is a 40-metre out kick in the air. So there's just little moments like that that add up to why you win and lose.
Maybe with Craig Bellamy, the change of personnel might be a good thing for him. All of a sudden, 3 or 4 new players come into your team. Maybe, the way that he motivates people and the way he gets teams ready, maybe it's a good thing.
And it's a bit unfair to say, but Melbourne Storm will win because of Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, Harry Grant, Craig Bellamy, that culture. And that's the thing they're going to have to double down.
So was Hughes always, I know he come back from that broken arm and that, but was he, of course he would have passed all the protocols and all that to play, but that'd have to get in your head too.
Yeah, I think he played the prelim final. He was under pressure, scored that try. Like he was great. There's no excuses from a physical point of view. It's just a mental challenge for the Melbourne Storm to try and climb back up Everest, and can they do it?
Well, because it keeps coming back to the fact that they've been there, but they haven't won one since Cameron Smith retired, and that's got to be playing somewhere on the mind that. Those.
I think those guys
players
have got that swag, and they know they're good enough to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll have much problem.
It's one of the bigger challenges for Craig Bellamy's coaching career to get that team back and lift that trophy.
Would he be second guessing himself too?
He would be asking him why. I think as a coach or a player, you lose 2 in a row, you do, self-doubt creeps in. But the reason why they get there is because they do the basics better than most other teams. So maybe that's one thing that they need to do is have a bit of discussion around those key guys around, what do we need to do? Do we need to change anything? Do we just need to keep doing what we're doing and then we'll be better next time around?
But don't you change every year what you do in the off season? And
yeah, to a point. Not. I don't think you throw everything out, but you tweak things here and there. But just a big challenge for them.
He keeps going around, Craig, and it gets to that point where at the season where he's weighing up whether he goes for one more year, losing another grand final, you imagine he'd want to get that job done.
Maybe, yeah. I thought, I told Craig 3 or 4 years ago to retire, but he never listened to me. So I think he will continue on as long as he feels like he can add value to that club. But
they're going to need him. They're going to need him more than ever now with these challenges.
If they had have won last year, I think he retires.
would he go anywhere else?
I don't think so. No, he wouldn't.
Do you think he would have retired had they won the grand final last year?
Yes, that he would have filled out his coaching
this year and
then walked away. But maybe when it comes around to round 9 or 10, whenever he has to make that decision, the driving force of him needing to win or wanting to win one more for that group.
He's won the right to be there as long as he wants. Yeah. He'll make the decision for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a very high-profile halfback has landed at his new club, and it was a huge shock. No, it wasn't. But Daly Cherry Evans is at pre-season training, and he is officially a Rooster in their new Adidas kit, looking sharp. So it was the worst-kept secret all year long, but now it's finally here. So, and there are still fans upset about it because they're not sure whether it was the right call, and it's hard to ever argue with Nick Politis and his group of people there who have demanded success.
If they did what Cooper did when he come to the club,
if
won
Daly,
3 premierships, if Daly can deliver that, well, there's no reason why he can't. Mate, a great player, Daly Cherry Evans.
Is it going to work, Coops?
Look, I don't know what happened in Daly's situation and the whole, taking time to decide it or whatever. I'm not aware of any situation and can't comment. The thing for Daly is he is a good player, more than good. Like, he's a great player. He's been a great player for a long time. He's played for his country, played for Queensland. What he did for Queensland after some players retired and got the captaincy back and reshaped his narrative as a great Origin player, like, he is tremendous. The one thing I do have to say is that Daly played in a grand final his first year, 2011, played in another one in 2013 and got Clive Churchill medal in a losing side. He hasn't played in a grand final since then. That's 12, 13 years that he hasn't got back to that. And the Roosters are going to expect him to deliver.
But they're on the way up. I reckon they're the most improved side in the competition, the Roosters, based on last year. When they start halfway through the year, I was thinking they're struggling, and all of a sudden they're a bit like Parramatta at the back end.
Look, I can speak from personal experience that the move from him, from Manly to the Roosters, it is grand final, right? That's the expectation, right? My first year to Roosters, like, we weren't playing well. There was people calling for my head after 8 rounds. Probably you two had a crack at me, probably.
I don't think I would have.
We were just trying to figure out what kind of game style you were trying to play, and it looked like you were really still figuring it out as a team.
I think we got smashed on Anzac Day. We were 4-4 after 8 games, and people were calling for my head, right? But the thing that will be okay for Daly is that if he starts getting that pressure after the first 2 months, he needs to stay strong and continue on the course, because Trent Robinson knows what he's doing. So that will be the thing. If he gets the pressure at different stages, can he stay true to it? Because, to Blocky's point, on paper, there's a lot of things that say the Roosters will be a great team this year. But with Daly coming, it needs to be better than great, because that's the expectation internally and probably externally.
Yeah. Well, he was clearly very unhappy last year, and that can do things to your football. Like, whatever was unfolding at Manly.
I don't know how he kept it a secret. I couldn't do that. How did he do that? Maybe they said to him, mate, if it comes out,
there's some challenges.
All deals off.
Like, look back at the season just gone. Like, I think they were 4 wins from their first 5 games. Manly flying. Daly decided to leave. He got dropped from Origin, and at 30, he'll be 37 before the season starts. If there's one bit of advice as an old halfback trying to do something, is he just needs to not lose his physicality. Like, if he starts not running the ball, passing a metre before the line, it's not going to create space for Walker and Tedesco. And it's really hard to do at 36, 37 to still be strong and make those contacts on the big players. So that's one bit of advice, is don't lose your physicality, Daly, because the game is getting faster and stronger than ever before, and you're going to have to step into it, create space for all that talent they have to score the points.
But is there any similarity between what we saw Adam Reynolds go and do at Brisbane in terms of the roster he's walking into? There's a lot of young guys in that Roosters team that are, that would benefit from the experience at halfback that Daly brings, that they probably sorely missed last year.
Yeah, there's probably similarities, yes. They're young, talented, have a lot of confidence. Do they need a little bit of guidance and game management at different stages just to pull the right string? Yeah. Probably, yes.
Well, he's a man for the job then, if that's the case.
Yeah. But there's, personally, individually on Daly, like, he will have to stay very true to himself and handle a lot of scrutiny, because it is success or not, and that's the expectation.
Yeah.
Like, you two were calling for me to be sacked halfway through 2018 anyway.
It wasn't me, I wouldn't say
What was going on inside? Can you tell us now? Like, we all thought that it was all imploding. Like, what's the Trent Robinson way? Like, when that's happening, we're all criticising, saying that they can't attack, they've got the best halfback in the game coming, they're not going to win the Premiership. Like, was it just all easy going? Was there any panic? You're never going to tell me the truth there, are you?
No, there was panic, but I think what we did was just work back to, like, are we doing all the right things? Would we change anything? And the answer was no, right? So even though those results weren't happening, there was a little tweak, but it was stick at it. Just to give some insight, like, I spent a long time at Melbourne, being a pass wide from Cameron Smith and attacking the 3-in defender with a back rower and Billy, right? All of a sudden, I wasn't getting that look at the Roosters. And like 8 weeks into the season, we realised, well, got Luke Keary and James Tedesco that run a east-west quicker than most players across the competition. I had to change. So I became a player that caught the ball, one off the ruck and just worked really tight in confined positions, condensed the defenders and created space for someone else. So, yes, my performance and stats didn't match what I was doing in my previous years, but the team and Luke Keir and Tedesco were running red hot. So there's a little bit of daily to work out what is the best fit for the Roosters. And if Sam Walker is going off like a Dalian favourite,
Give him the ball.
Give him the ball.
Yeah. But I mean, what a wonderful, and you feel like that's a great problem to have as a coach, is harnessing what the strengths are of Daly and complementing someone like Sam Walker and Teddy, who had one of the best years he's ever had.
That's a big problem with the game. By the time you've played for a decade, you know what to do. Your body can't do it anymore. That's what happens. You get it all worked out, and then all of a sudden you go, mate, I've got to retire because I can't get around.
I think, like, looking at it, like, Daly's role is make really good decisions, create space for Sam Walker and James Tedesco.
And have the energy and physicality,
and have the coach sticking by, which Robbo would have. He would have kept saying to you, mate, stick at it.
Who's his bodyguard? Is it Nafahu? Who's going to be on his side? Who's going to be looking after him?
He'll need a few.
He's going to need a few bodyguards. All right, well, let's just go through some fan questions because we've got heaps to get through.
Yeah. Are these legit fan questions?
They are. There's some. Well, they are for sure.
Is there
I'm
ones
told. And there's some serious ones.
Have your boys sent in through some questions?
There might be a red V one somewhere. I don't know. All right, let's go for you, Coops. And Dean wants to know, what's your favourite moment playing for the Melbourne Storm?
First one, debut. I think, I was fortunate enough to have some moments, but I don't think anything goes past the first time you pull on your rugby league jersey for your debut. I remember it was at Olympic Park versus the Sharks. We lost. I sat on the bench for about 60 minutes. I saw David Peachey just carve up the Melbourne Storm one night. But then as soon as I got on there, I just felt imposter syndrome, but I just loved it. And it was the thing that got me back to training hard the next day. So I think your debut, when you see your family in the stands, all the emotion that comes beforehand, nothing beats your debut.
Did you have spaghetti legs when you went out?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I was tired after 5 minutes because I had to play in the middle block.
Did you?
Yeah.
You played lock, didn't you?
Yeah, something like that.
Was it middle then, bud?
Well, I hung out in the wing as long as I could, but had to take a couple of hit-ups.
Oh, awesome. All right, Block, this is from Mick for you. The toughest, Mick the Greek. He likes the tough players. So who was the toughest player you ever played against and why?
I don't want to disrespect anyone because they were all tough. Mate, Les Davidson, Craig Young, Les Boyd. I played against Dallas Donnelly, would you believe? My first couple of years was survival. Mate, those guys they were crackers, them blokes, right? But I think the toughest and the reason for the shape of my forehead at the moment is...
What's wrong with your forehead?
Kevin Tamati.
Nothing wrong with it.
Kevin Tamati put about 16 lumps. He signed his autograph on the top of my head. That was the day that... am I allowed to say punched the shit out of Greg Dowling on the sideline in a test match? Do you remember that? I was actually... He was a New Zealand heavyweight boxing champion. And a stink start, I had to get in, mate.
How many did you get on him?
Not many, mate. I'll tell you what, mate. I look like I got stung by 1,000 bees after the game. But I was lucky enough to play with Kevin when I went to Warrington in England, and Les Boyd was in our side. Les Davidson was in our team.
Madman.
Mike Gregory. Unfortunately, he used to be the English skipper. He's not with us anymore. Unfortunately, we never got to play with each other that much because one or another had 6 weeks or whatever. But I would say Kevin. Kevin Tamati.
I would have lasted a second if that
Oh, mate, it was...
I feel like they were scarier back then. Did you ever fear anyone, Block?
Of course, mate. Fear's what drives you, you know. Mate, when we used to play test matches against the Kiwis, Mark Graham was Sonny Bill before Sonny Bill. Mark Graham was a wonderful player. Like the Sorensen brothers were tough, the Tamati brothers, all those sort of guys. Mate, it was... you got a few lumps when you played against them blokes, you know. So
Spencer Lenu's probably the only crazy-eyed front row at the moment. I feel like most of them were like that, right?
Yeah, well, they back in those days, they put a bounty. If you were a rookie, they put a bounty on your head. Let's go after him. You know, if you're a young fella. So
that feels like.
Yeah, chopping block.
Another one for you, Cooper. If there was a fight between you and Cameron Smith, Dan wants to know who would win.
Who's written that one in?
Dan someone.
Dan who?
I've got him, Dan.
Give me the phone number.
Dan S2U.
Phone number. 04.
I'm throwing Dan under the bus. I might have written the question. question. He's not
Finish
going to
your
answer
question.
it.
What do you got?
I said, if Cam Smith and Cooper Cronk were in a fight, who would win?
Well, he just got Hall of Fame nomination, so he would
He
win.
knocks you out.
But I got him in a grand final there.
Okay. Oh, okay, that was cute. All right.
Was it cute, was it?
It was cute. It was a cute answer. Blocker, let me ask you this from Scott. Why can't the Cowboys make the finals with all the talent that they have? It's a Queensland question.
Probably the spirit of the game that they play. I don't think that they're willing to get down in the gutter and rumble. I think that's probably the simplest answer. I think their style of game that they play, they
fell away from it because they were a super fit team a couple of years ago.
You have a look at it. Basically, over the last 30 or 40 years, the best defensive sides win. Really. I mean, they come first or second or whatever it is. So maybe they probably don't concentrate on that area of the game of winning that middle and winning the ground and all that sort of stuff.
Missing some mongrel, maybe.
Well, maybe they just their style is they want to play flamboyant and they don't mind if they win 30-28. Whereas you have a look at the sides that get down the gutter, that would really annoy them.
Yeah. Coops, I feel like the Bulldogs are always, their fans are always got some big questions. So I'll ask you this one from Curtis. His handle is Dogs for Life. Is Matt Burton's best position 5'8"? And,
Yes.
Could he play lock or fullback?
Oh, he could play both of those, but Matt Burton's a 5'8". I feel like one thing the Dogs went away from last year, they were the best defensive team for the majority of the season. First half, they're on top of the ladder. And then they brought in Galvin, and he is a good player, Lachlan Galvin. He will be a dominant player in this competition for a while. But I think they just dropped back their defensive mindset slightly, and they started points being scored to them because they started prioritising how do they score more points against Penrith, Brisbane, Canberra and Melbourne, right? So if I was Cameron Sorrell, though, I'm doubling down on who are my best defensive players, and Matt Burton is a good defensive player. He's a big body, he's strong, and I think he's the 5'8" for the Bulldogs.
And that's where he wants to play. So if he gets moved around...
Would you play Galvin at 7, do you?
Yeah.
Yep. I think he'll grow into a back rower, Galvin. You see how big and long and lean he is and how much reach he's got. He'll bung on a few pounds and he'll end up in the back row somewhere.
He needs to improve defensively if he's going to play in the back row.
Well, Galvin's dominated the headlines the whole season. I'm sure Bulldogs fans will be watching very closely to see how it unfolds for them next year. Gents, that's all we have time for, but...
It couldn't be over.
I know, I feel like that just absolutely flew by.
We have to send in our invoices, double time and a half for Rugby League in November.
Yes.
Surely. Well, you cost a fair bit, Blocky.
What's planned? Are you heading to the beach? Going to work on the tan?
Hit the golf course? What do you reckon,
Oh,
Block?
a bit of golf.
Yeah, you like golf? Yeah, I like blood sports. I don't... Golf's a bit...
He's doing MMA, I'm playing golf. Does that summarise our
Is that what's
personality?
happening?
Wrestling.
We've got you fired up talking about all the oldies that you played.
No, mate, I'm retired.
Okay.
What are you doing, Lars? What's summer for you?
I am heading to OzTag. I'm not playing, I'm supporting my children, and I'm one of those sporty mums that
Are they doing
I'm
nippers?
probably screaming on
Do you
the
coach?
sideline. I'm the team manager.
there you go.
Yeah.
No,
So I do
they
the
doing
subs.
nippers?
No, they're not nippers. They're too lazy
You
for
live in
nippers. You've got to run on the
Put
sand.
down the nippers.
Yeah, I know. Very lazy children. Just want to play footy all day long.
Quiet coach on the sideline or a bit loud?
I've been told to be quiet.
Get them on side. You want to...
Blocker, Coops, it's been a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Lars. Thanks, Blocky.
That
See you,
is the
mate.
Kayo
Good on
Sports NRL podcast for week 2. We'll be back again next week and every week until Las Vegas. We'll see you then.